we'll be delving into the conversation proper. And our conversation this morning is on the free fall of the Naira. A lot of people have raised a lot of concerns concerning the fall of the Naira. We look at the exchange rate right now in the country to the United States dollar. It is nothing to write home about. And when you go to the market, a lot of Nigerians, either in the market or going to, some of the malls and buying anything that has to do with household or anything you want to buy at all. The buyer is always telling you that the US dollar is going high. You should confirm before coming to the market to get anything. You want to buy phone, appliances, and anything that has to do with exchange rate. Everybody talks about the exchange rate. So this morning on the show, we will be talking about this free fall of the Naira and, of course, why this is happening. To help us unpack the mystery, to help us understand why we're having the Naira fall the way it is falling, we will be joined, and of course, he's right here at the studio. We have been joined by Dr. Alkali Abubakar, a business analyst. Thank you so much, Doctor, for joining us on the show.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
And just like I said in the beginning, anything you want to do in this country now, everybody is telling you that the dollar has increased. The dollar has, we have Nigeria's Naira being devaluated. Everything is just going down. Why are we having the Naira fall this way for the longest time ever?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a matter of concern for everybody. I was just, glancing through, your paper this morning, and the picture is not encouraging. Actually, the price of almost everything has gone about 40% in the last 5 days. There was a particular commodity that we were buying for 5,000 per unit, 5,500 as at Sunday, and by Tuesday, that's 3 days ago, it went to 6,500. So it's a matter of concern. And obviously, the price of almost everything, including pure water, revolves around the value of the exchange rate, Naira to the dollar.
Why is that, though? A lot of Nigerians are trying to juxtapose why maybe some of the things that are produced locally in Nigeria the prices should be determined by the US dollar.
Where I tell you, there is a multifaceted issue. There are so many branches to it. I wish we have the time to do it.
You just have to help us unpack all of this because it concerns every Nigerian.
Absolutely. Well, the multifaceted nature of it, there are both immediate causative factors, okay, and also the general, long-term immediate factors. Now, the long-term causative factors. Now, for a start, the value of the Naira or the exchange rate is actually determined by the fundamental economic forces of demand and supply. Okay. Just like the price of almost everything. When there is demand and there is no supply, then the value goes high. When there is enough supply and less demand, it comes down. And that is one. Then secondly, and I think this is very important, there are actually, saboteurs within the system. There are people who sabotage the system. There are people who sabotage government efforts. Okay?
Why though?
Yeah, well, for personal gains. It has always been the case, not even in the financial sector. Actually, even in so many other sectors, you find out that some government officials connive with third parties, businessmen, to change the system, to ensure that government policies do not work, so that their interest is protected. Now, again, I tell you, about 60–70% of corruption going on in this country today is tied to the dollar. It's tied to the dollar.
Now, give us a sense of how this happens, because when you're saying that some people sabotage the effort of the government, you know, we hear that all the time, but we don't know how this... I know you just mentioned one now. What are these different ways? Because when you're saying the problems are multifaceted, we need to understand, because when we understand the problem, that's when we're able to raise an alarm or probably bring out some of these issues so people understand. Because some people don't even understand that this is an effort to sabotage the government.
Yes, well, to be honest, the sabotage, part of it goes this way. You see, a government official, you know, fraudulently enriches himself or herself to the tune of billions of naira. What they do is they convert that money to US dollar. They simply take it to Bureau de Change, and Bureau de Change, you know, converts it to US dollar and then keeps it, holding of the currency. So when you hold it, then there is less liquidity in the system, and there is less supply in the system. So the demand rises. So you see, when the demand rises, obviously the price will go higher, and that is where you now have a situation when the government came, when this new administration came, the Tinubu administration came. Obviously, they came in with a policy which is about unification of the currency. Okay, that has not been achieved. Now, this hoarding, I will still go back to the hoarding issue. As I said, when a government official, you know, fraudulently enriches themselves, they convert to dollar because they cannot keep that money, okay, in the bank. They cannot keep the naira. Billions of naira are too bulky. So to erase the traces, what they do is they convert it to dollar and they give it to a Bureau de Change to keep for them. So obviously with that, if you have a 50, 60 billion worth of US dollars, you have already created artificial scarcity. It's like petrol. Okay, when you have petrol, when you have the marketers holding petrol, or non-state actors holding petrol, and there is no petrol, the price goes up. Okay, and then you have black marketers by the roadside and telling you to pay as much as they want, and you have no choice. So the price goes up. So back to the policy I was talking about, the unification policy. The government came with unification policy. Of course, prior to now, there were two exchange rates, the official and the parallel. Even now, there are actually.
There are two,
yeah, but now the government said, look, let's allow the dollar to float so that we have a unified exchange rate. Okay, of course, we know then there was also another form of corruption, which is that the official rate was like 400, 500 naira, the gap between the official and the...
I remember the CBN said that we shouldn't have more than 2% differences with the exchange rate.
No, it's too much. It's much more than that. Or 500, 600. So then there was even a time you have about 50% exchange difference. Yes. Yes, 50% difference, 40%, 30%, you have all this. So what people do is to sustain the system, people who have the access, they obtain the dollar at official rate, and then they take it to Bureau de Change, okay? And sell it at black market rate, and unlike 400, 500 naira per dollar, okay? And then also to institute liquidity. You see, government intention in most cases is sincere, but as I said, there are, you know, people who sabotage these efforts, and that is where you need proper regulation. Now that regulation is lacking. Okay, so people now use this gap, this exchange, this official parallel exchange rate to now obtain, and also CBN instituted some interventions. They say if you are sick, okay, you can be given dollar at official rate. If you are even traveling, PTA, you can be given dollar at official rate. If your child is schooling abroad, you can be given, and even in agricultural sector, you know, so many other sectors. CBN instituted this. You can go, and people now use, even major manufacturers, there are people who actually go to seek for, dollar at official rate from CBN under the guise of building a church. But they end up importing luxurious SUVs, cars.
Okay, that's another way of sabotaging the efforts of the government.
That's another way of the first one I mentioned was the issue of corruption, where someone steals billions and then they convert the money to US dollar and they keep it. They hoard it. Okay. Then another way, of course, this one that I just mentioned now is these interventions, some of which have actually been blocked. Government says if you are a manufacturer, you want to crash the price of cement, for example, you can come, okay, we'll give you. But all that doesn't happen. And they collect this dollar. They don't even go to do the cement. What they do is they go to the black market and then sell it, hoarding.
To get more profit.
Hoarding is the major thing. So now you have a situation where today, within 3-4 days, you have about, 32%, rise in the exchange rate. And that is how it's going to continue. So, actually, I remember I wrote an article on...
yes, you were one of the few people that predicted that the dollar was going to, the Naira rather, was going to fall harder than it did about 3 months ago when we were thinking that it was going to stabilize. What did you see? What were the signs that most Nigerians couldn't see at that time?
Yes, well, the sign was that there was no proper regulation of the system. And the sign was that, you see, you have the dollar actually left in the hands of the parallel market or the black market, as people will call it. They actually determine, the value of this Naira. So there was no regulation. Third parties, non-state actors, you cannot regulate. You cannot. You can regulate the banks. And that is why in that article, I actually, suggested that the Forex transactions should be transferred to the banks because you have better regulation there.
Okay.
You have better regulation.
So having said that and given that recommendation, yesterday, the 1st of February, the Burundi change operators at the Zone 4, just like the report that we played before, during some of our packages, we saw that nobody was there. There's no Burundi change operator exchanging Naira for the dollar. And this is a thing of concern. Tell us how this will affect the common man.
Yeah, well, in the short term, there will be more problems because, to be honest...
What kind of problems?
Yeah, because now you have less liquidity. If the Burundi change operators are not operating, they are not, doing any transactions, they are not selling the dollar. So where do you find it? That is why the supply, liquidity, will be much lower now if the Burundi change operators are stopped from operating. However, in the long term, it will pay well. In the long term, okay, if the government can institute a policy, implement a policy where Forex transactions are transferred to the banks, to the commercial banks. We're not saying the commercial banks are also saints,
they are not saints,
but
right?
then there will be better regulation. There will be better regulation. This open market of foreign exchange is tied to corruption so much. It's tied to corruption within the system. It's tied to even terrorism.
Okay.
Yes, we have seen where some sponsors of terrorism were convicted in other countries. Sadly, our justice system is very weak to do such things. But we have seen where Nigerians were tried. Nigerians are actually convicted of sponsoring terrorism. And they are financial Burundi change operators. So the government has actually a decision to make.
Okay. Now, looking at this holistically now, a lot of people would say that now that the Burundi change operators are not operating due to lack of dollar for exchange, will this affect our economy negatively or positively in the long or in the short run?
Yes. Well, as I said, the stopping the Burundi change operators from operating will affect our economy in the short term. It will affect the economy because I tell you, the dollar will even continue to rise. Yes, because...
So would the prices of goods and services now go up?
It's going higher.
In the short run?
In the short run, it's going high.
So when you talk about this short run now, what duration are we talking about? Because sometimes we say short run, and short run could run for like a year or two.
Absolutely. Well, that's what we're looking at. You need a minimum of 2 years, I tell you, to be able to sort out, this transition, to navigate through this transition. And the transition I'm talking about is transferring financial Forex transactions. Transferring Forex transactions from the open market, from the bureau de change, to the commercial banks. That's what I feel. And as I said, I'm not saying commercial banks are saints, but transferring this Forex to commercial banks. I mean, obviously, some of us, you have traveled outside this country, I believe, and you have seen where you have open markets. You go to the banks, there are designated, banks. In the bureau de change today, it's not regulated. There are people who don't even have license. They are not licensed to trade.
But they have an association. So it's believed that if you have an association, you're registered and probably have license.
Well, your association might be registered, but your members might not be registered
so you're
to transact their business.
Control now.
Yes, regulation is key to this.
Okay.
Government has been, I will say to some extent, they have tried to fix this problem. Okay, there has been a pumping of Forex into the system to increase liquidity. There was about $60 million that was paid to airlines, foreign airlines. Obviously, some of it is will flow in the system. Yes, and there are also, just an injection of Forex into the system. The government is looking at borrowing about $3.2 billion.
$2 billion.
$2 billion to inject into the system. All this you are injecting, and somebody is holding and keeping. You are injecting and somebody is holding and keeping, and then supply stays dormant. It's frozen. So supply is frozen, and demand continues to rise.
So how would this help our economy in the long run now? Will I see prices of goods falling? We'll have, in circulation this dollar, and if this middleman or the Burundi change are eliminated, what happens to them? Because there will be unemployment. These people feed their family, earn a living from the exchange. Yeah,
well, the point is, to be honest, you see, you have to look at the bigger picture. You have to, balance it out. Are you actually looking at the future of, 200 million Nigerians, or the present of, maybe about 5% or 2%. It's like saying, if you stop corruption, then some people will not be able to feed. Something like that. There are just about 5% of the population that is into this, that have access to the national treasury, and that are, in the front burner of corruption in the country. Just 5%. Now, you are saying I shouldn't stop corruption, because if I do that 5%, it's the same thing. You see? So you have to take decisions, and this is where the issue is. You have to be able to take decisions that will be for the good of majority of Nigerians who are actually squeezed now. I tell you, squeezed, because people cannot feed. Rice was how much in the last 7 months? It's now 4,000 for the mudu, is it? 4,000 naira for foreign rice. Half of it is 2,000. So it means in the next few months, a mudu will be 5,000. Remember that the minimum wage is still unresolved. Okay? Remember that your own employment is in double digits.
Is that what we're looking at in the long run to solve this problem? Are you giving us a sense of what we should expect in the short run?
Yeah, well, in the short run, it's not going to be, very encouraging, to be honest, because there will be sacrifices to make.
That's a painful, no pain, no gain. Who does the sacrificing now, knowing well that, we've gone through a lot as Nigerians in this country? Who does the sacrifice? Nigerians?
Of course. It's the ordinary Nigerian that will make the sacrifice. There's no doubt about that. These people have shortchanged the system. They have taken advantage of the leakages in the system, and the brunt is we simply bear the brunt. They have taken advantage of the system.
So now what now happens to, people at the detriment of the poor, right? People who are buying the SUVs, I mean our leaders who are buying the SUVs.
Yes, you see, just look at it. There is one thing that has happened, out of all this, which has never happened. And which is that the official rate of the dollar is actually higher than the open market, black market rate. It has never happened.
Why is that?
Yes, it has never. So that means we are not looking at short change and corruption within the open market alone. We're actually looking at it even in the parallel market, because what caused this? What caused this imbalance? Where the official rate was 1,500 per US dollar, and the black market open market rate was 1,450. 15 naira gap. It has never happened. And why that happened was
like 50% gap.
Not 50%. 50 naira. Yes, 50 naira.
Okay, you talked about 1,450 and 1,500.
And 1,500.
Okay.
Exactly. So what happened? Because there was underreporting.
From the media? No,
not the media. From the transactions. You see, the official rate now, how it is calculated is through the NAFEX, okay, through the FMDQ. They actually calculate it. It's not just fixed. They calculate it based on transactions, based on demand, okay, and supply within the system. So obviously, if you are doing a calculation, FMDQ is doing a calculation, you actually have to use data, isn't it? Statistics, provided number of transactions, how much was it last week and the week before, the trend. So what happened was people who did these transactions, that's organizations now, they underreported. Some who did 5-10% transactions, okay, they underreported 2-3. And that was what now led to this imbalance, where the official rate now jumped very high and surpassed the open market, black market rate. Okay, so you have this problem now eating into the official rate, which is assumed to be more organized, okay, and using data. Now the data is not given, okay, and that is why I keep saying, okay, for the government to solve this problem, it has to take very drastic decisions. Prices of goods and services, prices of everything is tied to the exchange rate, Naira, US dollar to the Naira.
So a lot of Nigerians have been calling for price control there, because you're buying something in the market today for, let's say, 1,000 Naira. You're going to the same market, buying the same item, and it's costing about 1,400 Naira. That's how very high these prices go, the differences. in a very short possible time. And a lot of Nigerians have said, hey, we have to have price control in this country. How will that help? Is it even possible to have price control concerning the rate at which the dollar and the Naira exchange rate is going?
Price control, to be honest, is possible. Okay, it's possible, and it will help, to some extent. It will be very, very difficult. Okay, very difficult even under a democratic government, but it's possible, and it is good for the system at this time. Look, all options are on the table. All options. We are talking of people not being able to feed. We are talking of people not able to transport themselves. Okay? So you now have a situation where sometimes, as I said, it's always sabotage, system sabotage. Now, someone buys a trader, buys cement at 4,005. For example.
And by the way, cement has gone up now.
Yeah,
I heard somebody complaining about
it's 6.5.
Yes.
It's 6.5. It's moving to 7,000 now. Now, he buys it for 1,008, okay? And he takes 200 Naira, for it, and sells it at 5,000. He bought this actually 2 months ago when it was this rate. Now, the dollar jumped, and 2 days ago, the price it jumped 40%. And the new price of cement that is in the factory is now 6,000. And you bring it out, you buy it, and you sell in your shop at 6,200, for example. The same person, that same person that had that old stock, will still sell their cement at 6,200 when it's actually the old stock. So you see where price control will help.
But how do we even monitor these things? Because
that is why I said,
most of these individuals are into business, and you hardly can control some of these prices or the activities of the businessmen, for instance. If we are to control some of these things, what can we do to bring about effect?
Yeah, control. Now, control, obviously, you are not going to be able to go to every shop. It's through the unions. Every, business conglomerate, every business entity has a union. And union has the prerogative to speak to their members to ensure that their members, go by their ethics. Okay? Government can work with the unions. Cement, for example, there must be, there is, a body. Even the chambers of commerce, government has to work with the unions of these, different segments of the society. And I tell you, what we're having is a bandwagon effect, okay? Because you just have an open check for everybody, okay? Now, if the government disciplines one person, one erring person, people will sit up. But you see, there is this culture of impunity in the system, such that everybody does, and you have never seen one example. You have never seen one example. The kidnappings we are talking about, tell me one person that has been convicted in a court of law. Convicted. Prosecuted and convicted.
I will see arrest, a lot of them.
I will see arrest. They actually admit, they confess on live TV. Tell me one person that was convicted. See, so the point is, I'm not saying you are going to go after 1 million, traders of cement. No, I'm just saying that if you have price control, you work with the unions, then you have a situation where 1 or 2 area members, even the holding of petrol, they hold it right from the depots. Even the independent marketers also follow. They hold it. Tell me one person that has been convicted. You read news almost every other day. You know more than I do. Tell me one, you are more current, I believe, than myself. Tell me one person.
Doctor, don't sell yourself short. All right. So I want to just have a sense of how big our foreign currency backlog is. Are we in trouble?
Yes. Well, It's to be honest, I think both the present and the future are not encouraging. To be honest, you have a backlog, a very heavy backlog, about 80 something trillion thereabout Naira in Naira terms. You have so much debt, so much debt. We are literally surviving on debt now. And you see, the problem is, when you borrow this money, okay, it's going into the budget. The National Assembly has already appropriated it, okay? Now you find out that that budget, about 40% of that budget is not realistic. So which means the money you borrowed, you are using 40% of it to service phantom projects. 40% of it.
But why do we still do this business as usual? Because if we're saying that 40% of a country's budget is unrealistic, then you ask yourself, oh, a lot of Nigerians are asking, and then what are we doing? It's
a fact. Look at the implementation, budget implementation. Look at the percentage. Look at the percentage, budget implementation. Tell me when we achieved 50%.
So now
budget implementation.
What's the problem then?
Budget implementation. What happens is, even in MDAs, an agency, it says it proposes, say, 500 million. A small agency, a small unit, 500 million, for example, for the financial year. You find out that about 100 or 200 million of that money is spent on travels, on extra costs. And you even come to that agency and ask them, what is it new that you have created? They have not. Then at the end of the financial year, there was maybe about 200 million. It doesn't go back to the government. It doesn't. We have seen that during President Erado's time. That is why I said culture of impunity. Once you start with one person, others will sit up. During that Erado's presidency, there was a conviction of a director who did not return unspent funds to the government. And subsequently, people realized, look, there is a price to pay. So now, tell me the last time anybody was asked of unspent funds, any agency was asked. Or do they spend 100% of it? Some actually even spend, some actually claim that they spend more. And some actually even claim that the budget, the release of funds was 50%. Or there is just no, pattern, no way, no method of checking these things. A lot of agents, if you tell them this thing I'm telling you, they will tell you, no, out of the 500, they were only able to receive 200 or 250. So how do you balance that? How do you even check the authenticity of? So the system is very, very porous. And you see, a government a country that sits on debts, so much debt. I can tell you that what you said is right. It's in trouble. A country that sits on debt. And you see, there is no clear diversification, economic diversification agenda. Clear one. Why did I say clear one? Now, you say you want to diversify the economy. A country so blessed like Nigeria, so rich, and yet so poor. You say you want to diversify. And you want to diversify around about 1,000 commodities. You want to diversify using solid minerals. You want to diversify using ICT. You want to diversify using agricultural sector. And even the oil that you're actually sitting on, the mega commodity, you are not getting even half of it. Even half of the revenue that should come to you from oil is not coming in because of the leakages in the system. So now, how do you diversify? When you are diversifying around 1,000 crores, you have to choose one commodity. Invest in it For example, textile.
Tech, for instance. Okay,
The textile industry.
Okay.
Textile industry. Say, okay, look, I'm investing in this sector. What India did? India is a world power in ICT today. They just, picked on that and invested in it. So that is the future.
A lot of people might argue that probably we're staying with petroleum.
With petroleum.
Of course, which people said is a bad decision, though.
That we are okay with petroleum? Is that what you're
No,
saying?
like, just like India, everything takes time and you have to start building.
Well, let me tell you, to be honest, we are even in a better state. We have better capacity to utilize ICT than India. We are the 6th largest oil producing nation in the world.
Where did we get it all wrong? How did we even get here in the first place?
Yeah, well, to be honest, it all boils down to the leadership. I agree. A nation, gets the kind of leadership it deserves. Okay, fine. But the onus is on the leaders to correct it. Okay, that is what leadership is about. When you see people, it's like in your house. You see the children, doing what you have to speak, and you have to make sure that they. So that is why the onus is more on the leadership. I believe we are not helping the leaders. I believe so. Because you see, a lot of us, if you hear them talk so nicely, criticize so unapologetically, but when you give them a small responsibility, they do worse than the people that they are criticizing.
So we do more of talking than doing the actual
absolutely.
thing.
Average. I'm not saying all of us are, but this is a reality, the reality of the system.
I hope that won't be the case for you, Doctor, because you've been preferring solutions and talking about recommendations.
Absolutely.
I'm sure if you're giving...
Yes. The point is you will have a lot of problems, wherever you try to make changes. That's no doubt about it. So you have to be ready, to absorb whatever problems or challenges you will come. But people will oppose you, trying to make the slightest change for the good of all. Because everything revolves down individualism in our system. People want to benefit. Okay, and leaders take advantage of that because, you want to benefit. Okay, it's money you want, is it? Okay, I need your vote. I give you the money, and I get the vote, and you even support me. Maybe even if it is true rigging, you support me, and you say yes, it's fine. You have no problem with me, and that's how I'll take my money back. Politics is the fastest growing industry in Nigeria, the most lucrative now, and it's not a career. Politics is not a career. It's just service. You must have people who go into politics, in the countries we call developed. You must have achieved certain level of, capacity in a particular area. Before you go into politics, you must have proven somewhere.
Okay. So, Doctor, before we get into what the leaders can do and what citizens can do to help our situation as a nation now, let's get into this. I'm trying to understand. Late last year, there was a remove of ban from, Forex, accessing Forex for some items. And then a lot of people I was anticipating that as at this time of the year, in 2024, I should be buying a bag of rice for about 25,000 Naira. And even all other items that were, removed from the ban in accessing Forex exchange. And right now,
that bag is half. You're talking about 25 kg.
No, I'm talking about 50 kg because 50, that was what a lot of people believed that was going to happen.
It's 60. It's 50 something, 60,000.
Okay, so did it for the
It's 25 kg you're talking about. Okay. I priced it yesterday.
Okay.
Yesterday.
No, I was thinking that at this time of the year, maybe 2024, the price must have reduced. That's what we were anticipating as Nigerians. But it didn't happen. So did this further compound the scarcity of the dollar in Nigeria? Because I want to understand if we are given that free will to access for exchange concerning these items, and we're expecting that things change, why are we still here? Did it further compound the problem?
A lack of access to foreign exchange, okay, you want to access foreign exchange, is it?
No, I mean with the items, because these are items that Nigerians consume.
Yeah, but what we are saying, what we are saying, you see, access to foreign exchange, access depends on availability. Access can only help when there is availability. When there is no availability, when there is artificial scarcity, that is what we are witnessing today in Nigeria. It's artificial scarcity.
And that seems to be one of our major problems, right?
The dollar is there. I always, yes, it is. I always draw comparison with the oil sector. All those days you see, some of them, you see us queuing overnight to buy fuel. There is fuel in the depot in Lagos, in the private depots, in the tanks. It's there. But they will not sell because they have a disagreement with the independent marketers who sell, they say, look, my price is 62. The independent will say, how much will I sell it? Even in those days when there was regulated price. Okay? So it is artificial scarcity, man-made scarcity. That is what is happening. There is this liquidity. Look, you have not heard that there are some houses. You see a house in Abuja here, which is, nobody is there in an estate. You have not heard it. And EFCC is saying some of them are actually stocked with dollars. That's what EFCC is saying. And they know what they are saying. They are investigators. They will not say it if it's not happening. Yes, you see a whole estate, half of it, nobody. And they are stocked with dollars. Yes, because they cannot take it to the bank. Some people have done overhead tanks. So in such instances, how will you access it? How will you access the dollar? The access depends on availability. Now, that is why I was talking about regulation. If the government doesn't put its feet on the ground, people are there, it is their business. They want to make money. Maybe it's you and I that will say, okay, look, even if I'm making this money, let me make it, let me do it. No. That is what they do for a living. They want to make money. They don't look at all this. All this analysis we are doing, it's not their problem. They want to make money. So they take they have maybe $100,000. They just take it and hold it. They have another 500,000. They hold it and they keep it there. Because the people who take government money, take what doesn't belong to them, take 50 billion, okay, they convert it to dollar, they keep it for profit. You take people's money and you keep it and hold it, or maybe when you change that dollar, it was 500 Naira, for example. You wait. You are the one who caused the scarcity. And then you wait until it gets to 600, then you change it, and then you convert again, and you keep. See, so that is why government has to stand its ground and regulate. No matter whose ox is good. You're not the only person who said to me that, okay, Lord, if you take certain people, if you take the changes, or that there will be unemployment. Yes, you see, I'm not taking it personal with anybody, to be honest. But I think, there is no point begging the question. There is no point begging the question. Okay. This thing we have said it maybe 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago. Look, if we are happy with it, then let us stop complaining.
No, I think a lot of Nigerians are concerned. And you talked about fuel. We mentioned fuel and prices of fuel now on the program a few times. And I'm starting to think about the price. Would the fall of Naira now affect the price of fuel?
Of course.
Are we expecting some sort of increase, maybe anytime soon, maybe in the long run or the short run?
Look, I tell you, the price of the exchange rate is the major determinant of the price of fuel. That one is even because of sensitivity of fuel as well. Now, everything revolves, every price of almost everything revolves around exchange
Even
rate. Now
transportation.
the price of fuel is linked to the exchange rate, because you know our refineries are not refining any fuel. You know.
Not yet. Perhaps
okay,
soon.
I actually wish the yet you put there will work.
Yeah,
I wish.
because we've been getting news about Dangote
Well, that's
refinery getting
news.
fuel.
We were told December that the Port Harcourt refinery will start operating. Now, Dangote, yes, you know, there is really a lot of enthusiasm, you know, that is going to begin refining. Now, the issue is you cannot expect a subsidy from Dangote. He's a businessman. Don't expect a price
reduction of pump price.
He's going to use. He's going to actually buy his machines. He's going to buy even the crude oil. He's going to refine.
He has to buy.
He has to buy. Just recently, I believe you may have, you know, relayed the news. He's going to actually buy his fuel from the United States.
Yes,
in dollars. Okay, so the price of fuel is tied to the exchange rate. Now, also here, as you rightly stated, transportation, you need diesel. For those trucks you see, they use diesel. Okay, now the price of diesel has gone up. The price of fuel will certainly go up. And importation is what we do. We are surviving on importation, despite the fact that we have the 4 refineries actually have a capacity of 650,000 barrels, refining capacity, okay, which is more than what we need daily. With the PMS daily consumption, which was said to be 64 million liters during subsidy. After subsidy, because it's worthless to you know, to smuggle it across borders, it came down to about 30 something. You see, so that estimation of 64 million liters consumption was actually bloated. About half of it, about 40% of it, is fake. Okay, because 64 came down to 30 something, 40 something. So we have refineries and they are not operating, and we survive on importation. Anybody who goes out to import fuel will tell you that it is the exchange rate that determines his importation. He will tell you that it's the exchange rate. The diesel he uses for his trucks, he will tell you it's the exchange rate. And mind you now, there is no bridging. Government doesn't subsidize transportation. Okay? So it's all open. What the marketers want is deregulation, full deregulation, so that they determine their price. And I tell you what actually the system is looking at, what the marketers are looking at, is 1,000 Naira per liter.
Wow, that would be so
that's what
hard
they are
on
looking
Nigerians.
At. I hope it doesn't get to that.
But
we have seen all that. We have even had the foreign financial institutions advising the marketers to get to 1,000. It might even be more, because you see, when you deregulate, which is what the government has done, but by removing subsidy, although there is still subsidy, quasi-subsidy regime we are in now, because you remove subsidy, but you still pay it. Because government still pays subsidy.
The government has denied that they do not pay subsidy.
Let's take them by their words, but they pay. If they, in August, they pay 100 and, August last year, they pay 164 billion. Because the marketers are saying, look, this exchange rate is too much for me. That is too much for me. I'm going to push my price to 700. The government will say, please, no, let us, do something.
This is getting interesting, and it's an eye-opener, as it's also scary for some Nigerians. And I, as a person, I often look at situation of things and I feel frustrated, and I know that a lot of Nigerians feel that way too, when you cannot do anything to help the situation. I'm thinking, like, the free fall of the Naira and everything that is happening, I can do something, right? So what can we do as citizens of this country? You've mentioned quite a number of things the government can do. What about me? What about you? What about every Nigerian that is watching, what can we do to help the situation?
Yeah, well, it's a very simple answer. We just have to do the right thing. We have to do the right thing. And that right thing obviously goes across so many issues. And you see, to be honest, nobody should say, I'm not interested in politics or I'm not interested in voting. No, no, no. Because that is where to start from, okay? We have a situation where, we are operating a very unrealistic, okay, structure. Yes, very, very unrealistic. Because a structure that now says, look, if you are a House of Reps member or a senator, you can take 100 million. Then the constituents you are representing, they cannot fit. So what kind of structure is that? What kind of structure is that? So try to do whatever you can to elect the right leaders. Elect the right leaders. Please, this is not about tribe. It is not about religion. It's not about region. If you hinge to those sentiments, then they have won you. Yes. Get, into votes, get into voting, vote or even contest for elections, vote, and don't take money to vote. If you have to take money, take it, but still vote for the right person. But please drop the issue of ethnic sentiments and regional sentiments. Yes, because that is the foundation. Now, who will change the structure for us? It has to be someone out of the blues. Anybody produced by the system would be very difficult for that person to change the system. But how those who want to make the change, how do they go in? How do they go in? Okay? A budget. The National Assembly just increased their budget to, this is increase to 148 billion. Increase. And we have had, a news, I believe you must have related such news, that there was a government palliative of, I think 100 million for reps, 200 million for senators, and
the reps said they didn't get anything.
Okay, okay, well, this is what they say. But something must have happened for the story to even,
like they say, there's no smoke without fire. But let's give them the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, well, that is why, obviously, if I collect this money and I've not used it, you ask me, I'll say I've not collected it. Then how are you going to check? So that is the issue. Please, we need someone who can change the system. The structure of the government is bloated. The recurrent expenditure is about 70-something or even up to 80% of the budget. Recurrent to maintain government. So that means only about 10-15% goes to the people. Capital is about less than 20%. Okay, so how is development going to happen? And then the projects that we see are on loan. We have them on debt. Look in the last, 10 years. Okay, is there anything new that you have seen in this country? Anything new in the last 10 years? And in that 10 years, every year there is a budget.
If you're talking about something new, then you have to be specific, Yeah,
no, I mean, like developmental. Developmental. Tell me developmental. I mean, something that you say, okay, yes, inflation was 24%, but it dropped to 9% or 10%. Something that you say out of school children dropped from 20 million to 10 million. Okay, then poverty dropped from 80% to 60%. Something like that. Mind you, we even have a ministry that is supposed to alleviate poverty. poverty. And we have seen the scandals there. So tell me, in those 10 years, every year there is a budget. Every year there is a budget. Let's even take 10 trillion average from, actually this year was 28, is it? 28 trillion. Now let's even take trillion. That is, in the last 10 years, 100 trillion naira was spent.
And we're still here.
And we're still here.
We just hope that we're out of here as soon as possible. Like you said, in the short run, we Nigerians might be bearing the brunt. But when you see that there's a light at the end of the tunnel, you probably would just like Nigerians are used to, suffering and smiling. But we hope that is not the case. We don't want our life to get more harder than it is right now. But Doctor, thank you so much for sharing your thought with us on the free fall of the Naira. And Dr. Alkali Abubakar has been one of the people who has predicted that the Naira was going to fall harder than it was falling at that time about 3 months ago. And now we have him in the studio unpacking some of the mysteries and the way forward for us to be a better nation when it comes to the Forex exchange and also curbing the issue around the free fall of the Naira. Thank you so much for being here. And we hope that, when the Naira starts doing well, you'll be here to talk about how well we are doing.
I hope that will not be for too long.
I hope that too. Thank you so much for being a part of this conversation.